Chapter 4. Deny Yourself. Let's look at another example from the lives of the disciples. Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to him with her sons, kneeling down and asking something from him. Matthew 20:20. Now you might do a little study on Matthew 27:56 and John 19:25 to discover that James and John's mom was Jesus' aunt. So, Auntie comes asking for a favor. And he said to her, "What do you wish?" She said to him, "Grant that these 2 sons of mine may sit, one on your right hand and the other on the left, in your kingdom." Matthew 20:21. Jesus, knowing who set this whole thing up, addresses James and John in verse 22. These 2 disciples were trying to manipulate him to become great in heaven. They did not yet understand. And when the 10 heard it, they were greatly displeased with the 2 brothers. Matthew 20:24. I thoroughly believe that the others were angry, not because of James and John's ungodliness, but because each of them wanted that position of greatness for themselves. I only share these stories with you to encourage you that even the original disciples needed to learn how to deny themselves. It wasn't something that came upon them. In fact, Peter and John had their own personal rivalry for greatness. In John chapter 21, after Jesus questions Peter's love and restores him to leadership, he tells him about his death. "Most assuredly, I say to you, when you were younger, you girded yourself and walked where you wished. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will gird you and carry you where you do not wish." This he spoke, signifying by what death he would glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he said to him, "Follow me." John 21:18 and 19. Peter is shocked. "I thought that I was going to lead and shepherd your people." Then Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved, John, following, who also had leaned on his breast at the supper and said, "Lord, who is the one who betrays you?" Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, "But Lord, what about this man?" John 21:20 and 21. Even at that very moment, Peter was struggling with the rivalry for greatness between him and John. Denying himself at that moment would have been unnatural. "I want to know that at least John has to die too." He hadn't learned yet. Even on Resurrection Sunday, Peter and John were striving against each other for greatness. Mary Magdalene had just come back from the empty tomb and told the disciples. Peter and John are amazed, so Peter therefore went out, and the other disciple, John, and were going to the tomb. John 20:3. Okay, they're going to check things out. Can't you see it? First they're walking along, and then Peter's walking a little faster, and pretty soon John is walking faster. Next thing you know, they're both running. Now look what it says. So they both ran together, and the other disciple outran Peter and came to the tomb first. John 20, verse 4. John just had to be first. It didn't matter that Peter was huffing and puffing behind. It's all about me. Is John denying himself? Well, while John is congratulating himself and catching his breath, and he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen cloths lying there, yet he did not go in. John 20, verse 5. In second place, Peter shows up and shoves right past John, standing at the entrance. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. Then the other disciple, who came to the tomb first, went in also. John 20:6a and 8. Even on that marvelous morning, the 2 of them have a foot race. How about you? Are you racing with others? Are you concerned with putting others first and yourself last, or do you strive to be greater than they? Do you serve tables or sit at them? Yes, even the disciples understood this struggle. The good news is that after they received the Spirit on Pentecost, things did change. They prayed together. Now Peter and John went up together to the temple at the hour of prayer. Acts 3:1. They healed people together. The lame man who was healed held on to Peter and John. Acts 3:11. They were placed in jail together. They laid hands on them, Peter and John, and put them in custody until the next day. Acts 4:3. They stood strong against persecution together. But Peter and John answered and said to them, "Whether it is right in the sight of God to listen to you more than to God, you judge." Acts 4:19. They were even missionaries together. Now when the apostles who were at Jerusalem heard that Samaria had received the word of God, they sent Peter and John to them. Acts 8:14. What a relief to know that by the Spirit of God we can overcome this struggle. Paul's own personal testimony and teaching reveals 3 specific areas where we can begin to focus on denying ourselves.
Thank you for listening to the audio version of His Final Words, a discipleship manual by Travis Hunt. This audiobook will continue in the following videos.